Today we are going to have a look at a very special type of case. No, it's not really a case, it's more like a concept. Today we are going to take a look at a concept, but god damn, it's hell of an interesting one. Meet Modcase 3D, or just Modcase, which is not really a case company. No, that's also not that much true either. They actually do have two cases, the Tiger and the Hydra, which look hella cool like for themselves, and I would just love to have them on the table one day. But what we are concentrating on today is the Modcase 3D. Now, already on the product page, you can see something which is very weird. That thing costs 24 euros and 26 cents. Now, if this was a throwaway no-name case made entirely out of old scrapyard pieces with the airflow characteristics of a cow, sure, okay. But this is a miniITX case, where somebody did actually spend some time thinking about getting the hot air out of it. So why is the price not at least 150, 200 euros? Well, because you're not buying the case. No, the name already kind of says it, 3D. You are buying the printing file for a 3D printed case. Yep, this is a do-it-yourself set to make your own case, which I find really freaking cool. So to correct the pricing, the files will cost you 24-26, and according to Modcase, you will need about a full roll of filament, which for me is about 25 euros. So the initial case price will set you back 50 euros, which, considering the usual premium for a case that is considered to be miniITX, is still a pretty good damn price. At this point, you might already suspect that this review will also be one of the most complicated ones I have ever done, and you would be really right. Because in the beginning, I said concept. Why? Because the case is still being developed. Instead of selling you something, developing V2, and then selling you the exact same thing with a new button, Modcase wants this to be an ongoing process that you are buying into once. So as we speak, the guys behind this will still be developing new updates, pieces of better airflow, pieces that are significantly different so that new hardware can fit in, and so on and so on. It's really crazy. And just to give you an example of how much devoted they really are, between them sending me a case and it arriving, they developed, tested and released an additional top hat allowing you to mount up to 280mm radiators on top. Okay, my case was old before it even arrived. And that's what I mean by concept. The process is still going on. And if you buy into it, you will be part of that process for a lifetime. Or until they stop developing new stuff for it and then they just scrap the whole project, but who knows when this will happen. That being said, by the nature of this being a concept, the case does come with one huge restriction. You need a 3D printer. Now, I am aware that there are facilities around the world which offer like a 3D print-on-demand service, or maybe if you have one in your school, one in your university, at your friend's dad's house, whatever. Whoever has one, you could also use that printer and for once, and then you are done. But in case that you want to be on the newest upgrades ASAP, it would definitely be of an advantage to have a 3D printer yourself. Additionally, you will need a 3D printer which has a bed bigger than 210 by 210 millimeters and which can print at least 240 degrees C, which based on my 20 minutes research should be like most home printers. As a big disclaimer, I do have a 3D printer. I have an Ender 3 V2, but I'm just too stupid to use it. I really tried my best and I spent way too much time troubleshooting that it is up there, that damn thing, but I'm just incapable of making the filament stick to the bed. It should be printing fine. Sometimes it does it fine for a minute and then it doesn't, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. However, the guys at Modcase printed it themselves, this exact one, and then they sent the whole thing over to me, so the review is safe. And actually, at the time, they didn't even know that I had a 3D printer at all, and I wanted to 3D print it again just to see how a do-it-yourself, I have never done this edition, would compare to the professional-made stuff. But yeah, sorry, but no way. I just attempt after attempt after attempt. I just produced horrible stuff, so just no comparison today. But thankfully they gave us this one. To give you some insight into what you are getting, once you bought it, you will get a download link for this folder. In here there are 3 separate folders for the 3 different sizes of case that you can print as of now, to which we will also get in a minute. But in each of these folders you will find the file for every individual piece. To print it, drag it into your slicer, make sure to have the right settings, and off you go. Now, there are pieces which might be a bit too big for a 210x210 bed. In these cases, there is a separate split folder where you have these pieces split into 2, and after you printed them, you can click them together, creating a bigger piece. An example of this would be the side panel, or one of the side panels of the one that I own. Additionally, you will also find a folder full of miscellaneous parts, thumb screws, adapters, washer, and all that type of stuff. Also very important, end user license agreement. Do not share the files, don't be an asshole. And the most important file, user manual. Here, very good job. Everything is quite well explained with pictures and all, and they also give you all of the necessary settings and whatnot for your 3D printer. So kudos to Modcase, they did a really great job here, even with an assembly video at the end. Though note that because you are supposed to print it yourself, they kinda needed to make a great job there. Also quite important, you will find a list of needed parts outside of what Modcase can provide to you, like a riser cable and an actual screws. But what they do is give you AliExpress links to all of this stuff, so you can get all of them for literally cents. Except the riser cable, that one costs a bit more. But okay, now I think we can finally get to the actual case. Right now there are 3 versions available. We have an 8.4 liter compact one, a 12.7 liter for large GPUs, and a 13.3 liter for water cooling. And the one that I have is none of them, but we will get to that. Each and every case comes with its own set of hardware capabilities, but there are also things which are always the case all across the board. Like for example, PSU and motherboard. For each and every case, or for each and every size of the same case, it's always going to be miniITX motherboard and SFX or SFXL power supply. Always. The smallest 8.4 liter one is measuring 324 by 200 by 134 mm and can support up to 2.7 slot GPUs, which are up to 318 mm long and 153 mm tall. To cool down the CPU, we can mount up to 54 mm high coolers, so things like a Nokia NHL9A or Be Quiet Pure Rock LP. In terms of drives, somewhere in there should be space for a single 2.5 inch drive. And based on the images, it should be mounted to the front panel. The 12.7 liter model, being 266 by 210 by 166 mm, can support a bit more. Up to 3.7 slot GPUs, which are up to 360 mm long and 163 mm high. For the cooler, we also get a bit more headroom in form of up to 86 mm high coolers. And even the SSDs got an uplift. Now we are looking at up to 4 of them. But that's not the important part. The important part is fans. Now we can mount up to 3 120mm fans onto the side panels. Though keep in mind that this will be in front of the CPU or in front of the GPU, so the thickness of basically everything is very relevant here. And then there is the 13.7 liter measuring 366 by 263 by 150 mm. That one has the additional top hat capable of housing a full 280mm radiator, or even an extra thick one if you really want to. Or just slap fans in here. Thick fans. Though all of this comes at the cost of only now being able to host a single 2.5-inch drive. Now, the model that we have, the exact one, is none of them. Unfortunately for this video, I had to postpone it again and again and again because I knew how much work and research it is going to take. And at the time of receiving the case, we were in the middle of creating this room. And this one was going to be an enormous one, so we had to postpone it. But this is actually good because it does showcase the dedication of Modcase to continue developing this case. The front panel that I have right here just doesn't exist anymore. If you get the newest version of the case and you will throw the standard front panel into your slicer, you will get one with 2.5-inch drives on the left side and a round power button on the right, which is very clearly not what I got. And even if you go into the optional folder containing, upgrades, you will get a top version with a potential USB port aligned vertically, which is also not what I got. However, I still had a 3D case bundle in my downloads folder from back in early March. And if I take the top piece from that folder, voila! 3 horizontal slots, each 12mm wide, for 2 USB Type A's and a 12mm start buttons. You see, this is the reason why I want to focus on the concept behind this rather than the exact case itself. We will still talk about the quality though, that's for sure, but not so much about the exact features, because let's be honest, my review was already outdated whilst the case hasn't even arrived yet. So let's talk about the concept. You are not buying a case, you are buying yourself a membership in an ongoing development project of a case which grants you immediate access to the print files of said case. And it provides you with ongoing updates for the future. Such updates, for example, for the period between December and April, are lower density mesh, thus higher airflow mesh side panels, new side panels for the 12.7 liter model that can house 2 120mm fans, a new mounting system for said fans so that you don't have to screw them in from the outside, a new rear panel for added 92mm AIO support for the 8.4 liter model, a flat out new model in form of a 13.3 liter one which now comes with up to 240 or 280 radiator support, and randomly added spare parts like for example a movable PCIe riser holder and this ridiculously cool 3D printed thumb screw. One that is actually fat enough so that I can get hold of it with my fingers, not with a screwdriver. That's like a first time for me. And the list is just going on and on and on. Because Modcase is just not stopping here. Like, they already announced an ultra compact 3.7 liter model. No idea how they want to fit a power supply in there, but okay. Just look at mine. There are no case fans, and at the time there were none planned. But between me getting it and now, we have full 120mm fan support on the side panels, and I just need to print them. So that's what you are getting. And it makes no sense to say something like, this is what you are getting, because it is just not. You are getting the next version of this and every version that comes after that. And I'm not saying you are getting one of them. You are getting all three or every liter model that will come after that. They just add whatever Modcase feels like today and feels like developing today, and then you can just download the files, print it, and have a smaller, a bigger, more support, whatever you like. And if my parents hadn't let me fall my head as often as they did, I would be capable of making my Ender V2 run, and thus I would be capable of creating all of these pieces, upgrading my side panel for higher airflow mesh models, adding fan support to them, and thus achieving a lot more cooling performance without buying a new case. Now I can see why the concept may be complicated depending on the new upgrade that you are trying to print. Like for example the new version with added red support, you may need to take the whole thing apart and then rebuild it inside a new, let's say, base of the thing from scratch, which really isn't the most enjoyable process. If you need to do it, quickly, or you want to do it quickly, it takes some time. So I get why that might be complicated, but if it's just another panel upgrade, it takes a couple of hours to print, you rip it off, you slap it on, and you are done. But in the very least, you have the possibility for it. And Modcase is just pumping whatever they developed over time into your mailbox for a one-time fee, which really isn't that expensive if we are honest here. Now, the biggest issue with all of this is of course the fact that you require a 3D printer, or at least easy access to one, because a 8.4 liter model already takes 24 hours to print, and if you don't have a printing farm, you need to print everything sequentially. So it's not like you can just click one button, go and come back in an hour or two. And to make it even harder, you need at least 3 working brain cells to understand how to use a 3D printer, which apparently I do. Yeah. But let's talk about quality, and in this case I will only speak about the exact model that I have in front of me, so keep that in mind because your results may vary a lot, like filament type, I don't know, print quality, 3D printer model, whatever. Modcase states multiple times to use PETG because everything else might start to wrap or bend once the PC gets hot enough, and who knows, maybe they use the most premium, most expensive PETG paired with the most expensive 3D printer and most durable whatever that the world has ever seen, so your mileage may vary. But to sum it up, it is good. Now, it's not an aluminum case. Of course, things will flex, things will move if you press on the right spot, and you might even hear a little crack. And when I first got the case, removing the side panels for the first time, mind you, not knowing that I can actually remove them that way, but the first time clicking these off did feel kinda horrible. But overall, it's really good considering that all of this is essentially made out of a Coca-Cola bottle. Of course, you shouldn't be throwing the case, please do not throw the case, but once you put everything together, once the motherboard especially is in there, it is surprisingly strong. Given that it's just plastic, I have nothing to nag here. For the build process, we did a separate video before filming this review or before doing the review, and because of the very special nature of the case, I basically eyeballed the whole thing, not knowing what I was getting actually into, and it was fun. And to be honest, except for the part where I didn't know how to take off the side panels, it was relatively easy. It was a straightforward process. I think if you have built inside an SFF case or two before, everything in here becomes second nature. There is nothing revolutionarily complicated about building in here. Of course, no cable management, it's an open box, so good luck with that, but overall it was pretty fine. And the little handle on the back for transport is kinda cool, though I'm just not the biggest fan of how the back part is mounted down. It feels kinda flimsy, though nobody forces you to use it at all. For this specific build, we were able to smash in a full-on RTX 4080 Gainwatt Phantom, as well as a 7600X with a Nokia L12S on top, including an Arctic P12 Slim on top of that. So this thing is packed full. And to give you some insight, in a Thermax stress test, between no panels at all and panels slapped on top, there is literally zero difference. Nothing changed. For the GPU it was like 0.5 of a degree, but for the CPU it stayed at exactly the same clock speed, exactly the same temperature. Nothing changed. So although my side panels are already outdated and there are way better models available, these older ones are working perfectly fine, and the performance of this is pretty much equal as if I just built the thing on top of the table and just let it run on here, which is pretty much the best you can expect for a miniITX case. Now, on things that I believe Modcase should improve upon, for example, is a actual build guide per case size. Yeah, their instruction manual is very good, but that one is more focused on building the case rather than building inside of it. How do I mount a GPU in it? How do I position the riser cable? I think they could improve on creating a totally separate guide answering all of these questions and still keep the guide that they have for assembling the case. Furthermore, I would love to see some freaking timeline of released versions, because when I was writing the script for today's review, I got so lost. In the end, I had no clue what exact case I had no idea what the version number was or the date. or whatever. I had no clue what I had in front of me because the sizes did not align with anything on their website. What I would like to see is, for example, a long listing page with every version that I have ever released and available for later download. Of course, for members only. Just lock the whole thing behind the same paywall that the email list is locked behind, and there you go. Because let's say you bought the case in December, you printed it in March, and you re-downloaded the package in April because, I don't know, your cat scratched the front panel. Well, you will be as much lost as I was, because the stuff I was looking at wasn't what I was looking at a month prior, although the names were the same. On a side note, but with credits to Modcase, because they are having an exceptionally well-made manual. They are referring to all the pieces in a standing orientation. So the part where the motherboard I/O comes out becomes the base. This is basically the top. Now, they are not wrong, but I found that exceptionally confusing when going through all of their print files. Like, for me, the case should be standing on like where theoretically you would mount feet, and thus you would have like a front panel, a back panel, and two side panels. But for them, we have the base, we have the front, which is here, then we have a rear panel, which is the one where the GPU is mounted, we have a side panel, and then I'm just lost here. But a quick glance at the spec sheet and I knew what they were talking again. So for who is this case actually for? Right now, I believe only for people who have been 3D printing all of their stuff for a very long time. I don't believe that you need to be an expert, but I sincerely doubt that you want this to be your first ever 3D printed thing. Not that it's an impossible task, really not, but me being already too dumb to just print anything at all, I cannot see how a double-sided mesh filter will be any easier. Also because there are so many settings that you need to set correctly in the manual, and I'm so happy that they just sent the case. Now, there are ways around that. You can use one of these 3D printing facilities, but using the ones I was able to find online delivering to my location, they were just significantly more expensive than just buying flat out a new, bigger, better, easier to use 3D printer. But still, even then, only for people who know what they are doing, which I am clearly not. But as far as I'm concerned, I do love the project behind all of this. A one-time fee, and as long as you got a working 3D printer, you can be part of the whole freaking journey. Get the newest updates, get the newest features, update your case as you go, just to fit the newest standards, newest sizes, whatever. That's absolutely something that I can get behind. You will need a few extra things. You will need to bring your own riser, own cables, own screws, and these types of things. But Modcase does provide you with links to everything. And once you got them, you can also repurpose them for further builds, for further updates, for further whatever. So all of that is a really cool thing. But not for beginners, clearly not. But okay, this should be it for the concept behind the Modcase 3D and their, I believe now non-existent 14.6 liter model, but I'm really not that sure. At this point, a huge thank you to them for not only providing us the print files, but also printing an example and shipping it over, because God knows I would have never been able to do this whole video without them. On a side note, we also have a Discord server, so if you want to join, the link is down below. And of course, we also have channel memberships, so if you're looking for a good way to sell your soul for an OG poop emoji, that's a pretty good way to go. Additionally, you can rest assured that the income will not only keep the channel afloat, but it will also serve to, I don't know, get courses on 3D printing, because I clearly need them. Anyway, thank you for watching, but if you want to continue, take a look at our take on the Nuvolo Stack 2.0. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.